It's almost like a beautiful depiction of evolution. We're watching this thing be born into the world, this new species of business. The things that are working are spreading and growing, and the things that aren't are like dying and being left behind.
All the people that have been doing the same thing for like 4 or 5 years, if they don't get their act together, what's going to happen is some young guy is going to listen to my podcast, or they're going to figure out, they get into couch flipping, however they get into, and they're just going to pay attention and work really hard. And they're going to accelerate way past these schlubs that have just been like, not evolving.
I think, server-based solutions are required.
The people in the game right now are going to make a lot of money. That's what happens when new markets are formed that solve big problems. Facebook Marketplace, for better or for worse, is
Hey, are you a couch flipper? Ready to flip smarter and faster? What I'm about to share is changing the game for flippers everywhere. Struggling to find lucrative deals? Our app's core feature, the powerful sourcing tool, is your secret weapon. It's not just a tool, it's your eagle-eyed assistant, scouting the best deals across multiple marketplaces. With our app, you'll receive instant notifications for every single couch posted in your area, meaning you will always have the first pick. And now we're rolling out an exclusive feature, one-click instant cross-listing. Imagine listing your incredible finds on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, and OfferUp with just one tap. It's not just about saving time. It's about multiplying your sales opportunities exponentially. Picture this. You snag a fantastic deal through our sourcing tool. With a flick of your finger, your listing is live on 3 major platforms. More eyes on your product means more sales, and that means more profits. And you're doing it all faster than ever before. Listen to Dario, a regular user who transformed his couch flipping business.
My name is Dario Cortez from Cortez Furnishings, and flipping couches for about a year and 3 months now. Within the first week, we went from flipping 5 couches to 10 couches in like 3 days.
This game-changing combination is available right now. Download Ivy Flip today and be among the first to experience the future of flipping. And here's the best part. You can try Ivy Flip for a week for free. Click the link in the description or search Ivy Flip on the iOS App Store or the Google Play Store.
I was just in Brazil in Colombia. There was like a founder house. So I was out there with a bunch of founders. And a lot of these guys, they came out of Y Combinator. Some of them are like Teal Fellows. So these are what you call cream of the crop in terms of entrepreneurs. And there was, I did have a certain feeling of inadequacy as I'm hanging out with these guys. One of them, for example, was the youngest CEO of a publicly traded company at 26 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, his name is Alex Rodriguez. He IPO'd this company called Embark 2 years ago at a valuation of $5 billion. So,
wow.
Yeah, and he's 28 now, and I'm watching, and we're at Carnival together, and he's just sloshed, right? And it's just fun. I'm like looking at him, I'm like, this, but then you start talking. He's like very, very intelligent, and the things that he can do, and like just the career path that he took, like I could not have done. I could not have done. I don't have the same capabilities, particularly in terms of his technical ability. I'm pretty good in terms of like soft skills. I don't know, maybe that's a bad way to put it, but I'm pretty good at sales and marketing, management. I think I have good business strategy, but I'm not like fucking Einstein, Yeah. Whereas this guy, he kind of has it all. And they're just sort of comparing and him and like some of the other founders that I'm in the room with, and just comparing like the path that they took and the industries that they're in are not as accessible to me. And there's sort of a feeling of, I definitely felt some inadequacy there, but the thing I really like, and this is my 6th company at this point, and I won't get into the details of my background, but no rocket science, right? Some complex stuff like insurance technology and financial technology. But the thing I really like about what we're doing today is that it's premised on giving people opportunities. So, and that's the whole reason we got into the space in the beginning, because Ivy, when we started the company at the end of 2021, me and my co-founder, who's gone now, we raised pretty substantial amount of seed funding. But the idea is that we're going to be a financial technology company, and we're focused on providing credit services like loans to gig workers, Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, DoorDash delivery people. The idea is that, these guys don't have credit or they have bad credit. And if they need a loan, then they're going to go to something like a payday lender, pawn shop loan, something like that. And, their payday lenders are known for being predatory and having extremely high interest rates. And it is true that like people get stuck in these cycles of debt, right? You take out a loan to pay off your old loan, and that's because the interest rates are so high. But on the other hand, no one else, like traditional financial institutions, are not providing liquidity to these people. So if they need money, where are they going to get it? They kind of have to go to the payday lender.
Yeah.
And so we thought we could solve this problem. I think most importantly, it was like a compelling pitch to VCs, right? Like they could see that this is a big enough problem that, there's a market for. And at the time, VC markets were really hot, right? People were kind of pouring money into different startups. And this is end of 2021. Markets crashed in 2022. So we went to go do another round in 2022. We realized like there's no more money coming. And the kind of company that we're building previously, there's basically no way to be profitable like without raising a couple rounds. Like you need to like grow into profitability, because that kind of is premised on scale. And so we're like, okay, shit, we got to make money immediately, right? And so one thing we realized is, as we're looking at these gig workers' bank accounts, most of them don't even have $500 in savings. Like most of them are just living paycheck to paycheck. And so we're like, how do we put money into people's pockets? How do we create opportunities for people to make money outside of the confines of 9 to 5, right? And so we started looking at side hustles. One of our engineers at the time was also a carpenter, and he had, actually flipped some furniture on Facebook Marketplace. And so that was one of the ideas that went on the board. And so we investigated a couple different side hustles. We found furniture flippers. We found that furniture flippers are mostly women, like they're furniture artists, and they tend to treat it more as a craft. And so they'll take it really broken down and they'll fix it up, they'll refurbish it, sand it, paint it, and then they'll flip it. And maybe, they seem to be making more in the realm of like a couple extra grand a month. And a lot of them, they're moms, so it's like a nice side hustle that they can do while they're at home with the kids. And adjacent to that were the couch flippers. And couch flippers, in contrast, almost entirely men. And instead of like treating it like an art or a passion or hobby, they're almost purely capitalists, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Almost purely capitalists. And we started talking to some like couch flippers, and a lot of them came back and said like what problems you have. A lot of them said the same thing. It's like, well, if we could find quality furniture, we could sell quality furniture. It's like our demand seems to be primarily driven by the supply. And so we're like, okay, this is a problem that we think we can solve. And then, after a couple rounds of conversations, we put out a product, and, that's all she wrote. That's how we got into couch flipping proper. And, it's low barrier to entry. So with a couple $1,000s in startup capital, you can get going in couch flipping. And there is pretty substantial economic upside. As we've seen, there are people across the country making like $10, $15, $20, $25,000 a month. And these are not isolated cases. And for a lot of these guys, it's the most money that they've ever seen or made ever in their life. But it requires someone who's willing to work hard, right? Like you can't just start flipping couches casually. It's not a get rich quick. It's not like you're doing a ClickFunnels or cryptocurrency like Bitcoin or, selling online courses or something like that. It's like real nitty gritty work. But if you're willing to put in that work, there is like a path for you in this market. So it's something I'm excited about, like in that reason. I think it's really good for the people that get in the game, whether or not they like me or not. It's a whole different story. I think it's good for the environment. I think it's good for the markets, like local markets. A lot of this furniture otherwise ends up in the dump.
Yep.
And for the local logistics economy, like it's providing a unique service that doesn't exist, it solves a big problem, right? Like you're moving out of your apartment, you have a bunch of shit that you don't want to take with you. What do? You like throw it away, pay a junk removal company. You can't even donate it because a nonprofit's going to charge you a fee. So people go to Facebook Marketplace to try and like offload this furniture, and then they have to deal with like all people on Facebook Marketplace, and we know what that's like. Flipper can make that process a lot easier for them. They're going to come pick it up, remove it out of your home, get rid of the inconvenience, give you some like money in exchange for that as well. So you're not total loss on that furniture. You can recoup some of the value. And then they make the value in that couch available to the next person moving in. So instead of buying something from like Amazon or Wayfair or IKEA, something cheap and shitty that ships to you in a box, you can get like quality furniture delivered straight to you, and you don't have to pay top dollar to the luxury brands. I think it's a win-win for everyone involved.
The whole supply chain, basically, minus maybe furniture stores. They're probably taking a hit, I would imagine, from it. But I love it for all the reasons you mentioned. I mean, like the idea of giving somebody or selling somebody a couch in a price point that they can afford, that is a quality couch and not some like shitty couch that's going to, get broken in 3 years or less, that they're going to have to go buy. It's like almost like predatory loans, where it's just like if you are on that cycle, just buying a new couch every 3 years, negatively impacting their lives.
It's not just couches, right? It's any like local bulky item like that. Any like furniture, even appliances, anything that people want to get rid of, but it's inconvenient for them to get rid of, that could have value for the next person. That like flippers are that missing piece, And like I'll give you the contrast. Compare that to people who flip video games. I just had a guy on the podcast who flips video games. He's not really creating value in so much as he's finding an opportunity for arbitrage. So like, he goes to the store, he's like, okay, this game I can buy for 10, but if I look on Amazon, it's selling for 22. So if I can buy it here, I can list it on Amazon. I'll make that $12 difference. There's my arbitrage.
Yeah.
The thing is like making that supply available elsewhere, but he's not really doing anything to fix up that game, or, you know what I mean? There's
there's value in offering it to somebody who wants it, who can't go to that store, so there is that value. I guess that's where that $12 is earned, but
yeah, we're on the same page there. It's like there is some value, but it's not quite the value added of flipping a couch. There's a lot of value added in flipping a couch. It's freaking big. You got to move it out of this apartment. They clean it, they stage it, make it look presentable, and then they make it look good for that next person who wants to feel good about what they're purchasing. That's probably understated, right? You feel differently about your purchase when it's like cleaned up and presented to you in a certain way, as opposed to like you have to haul it out of some like stinky college student's dorm room apartment. Like there's a difference in perception of what you're getting to, right? So you can feel better about buying used furniture too, and then you get it delivered to you. So there's a whole lot of value add, I think.
Oh yeah,
in the couch flipping ecosystem compared to something like video game. Yeah, you could like resurface the disc, and I'm not saying there's no value add, but it is different. And the fact that these items are big and bulky means that you only have competition on a local scale, right? Once you take the couch out of the box, it's very hard to put the couch back into the box. Whereas like, an iPhone, a video game, you can buy it from Oregon, have it shipped to Texas, put it in inventory, and then ship it out to California. So the buying and selling competition is national, if not international.
That makes sense.
The reason I bring this up is, long term, this is what I think the opportunity is that we're targeting at Ivy Flip, right? Like selling software to couch flippers is just a wedge. Ultimately, maybe we could build a 7-figure revenue business from that over the next whatever years, which is good. Like that's not a bad place to be, but it's not the big opportunity either. The big opportunity is having flipping become commonplace all over the United States and Canada, such that if you are someone moving out, you know that there is like a qualified and reputable resource near you that you can interact with to help you sell and purchase items. Now, there's this other company called Kayo. Have you heard of Kayo?
Uh-uh.
So Kayo is a big ass furniture flipper. They raised like $50 million, right? And that's like, you can go look them up. KAIYO.com. Yeah, and like, but they really only operate, I think, in like San Francisco area and New York, right? So they don't really have a national.
Wow.
Presence. They're
But they raised $50 million for those areas still.
Yeah. I don't know the whole fundraising story, but like, you know, if you look at their like they have, when I go on the New York City subway, ads, right? Want to buy or sell used furniture? Like, come to Kayo. And people seem to love them, right? But I also have heard back channel reports that like they're just lighting money on fire. And that's because their operations are totally centralized, right? Like they do all the flipping. So you sell the couch directly to Kayo. They send a W-2 employee in their branded truck to come pick it up, and then they'll bring it back to their warehouse where all of their inventory is stored. Yeah, like they own everything. They have fully integrated the stack of flipping, but at a large scale.
Yeah.
And this model just it's so operationally complex that it's going to be impossible for them to scale nationally, right? Because like typically the way like a retailer is going to scale is they'll have like centralized distribution, warehousing and distribution, manufacturing, warehousing and distribution. So maybe the manufacturing happens in another country, but it comes into the US, into like a warehouse. And then from that warehouse, it gets shipped nationwide. That's sort of the standard logistics model for a retail company in America, right? Or you do have some sort of like drop shipping model. But when you're dealing with the recycling of used goods, well, you need to bring in that inventory and then you need to get that inventory back out. And because it's big and bulky, it's very hard to do that from a single at scale from a single distribution center. And so by nature of what we're doing, it has to be like smaller nodes within each community or township or city.
Wow, that is really a cool way. I've never really thought about it like that, in contrast with a large business trying to do it.
Yeah. I think like they can have they can probably become profitable. I don't know what that would take. And they could probably have a nice business for themselves. I think they were actually poisoned by VC dollars. I don't know who's going to have a better shot at creating like a footprint of like what we haven't seen yet, right? Is like a flipper that has been able to scale his business into multiple cities. I've heard this dream a lot, right? Like flippers like, oh, I have a good business model here and I want to scale it to like a couple different cities, almost like a franchise model.
Yeah.
Right? Like we haven't really seen that in the flipping world. People are sort of owning and operating their own like local operations. It's very difficult to like imagine running like your flipping business in your city and then like a city 3 cities over or like 100 miles over. Like there's I don't know, it could be possible. It is
it's definitely possible if you outsource a lot of stuff, but it would be at a certain point you're like, okay, yeah, well, I could do all this work to make more money, but is all that work worth the extra money? There's a guy in the group a while back who was trying to franchise, but they were franchising not their operation. They were just like actually doing franchises where it was like, yeah, you know, pay a fee, we'll teach you how to do everything, we'll like coach you. And they were like seriously trying to do it. And I think it failed because it's just like, and it's like the whole decentralized model. It's like, as soon as you teach someone how to do it, there's no sense in paying a franchise fee when you're like, hey, like you're not like what? Like, so I think that ended up falling flat.
Yeah. So anyhow, like I don't know exactly how to do it, but there's something there. Like this whole idea of a decentralized network of flippers. And that's kind of what's happening with this community is you have like this group where people are sharing best practices. And we also, now you have like our podcast where we take some of these private conversations that, you know, I talk to flippers day in, day out, you can imagine the amount of insight that I get into like flipping businesses, even without really doing the flipping myself. And, everyone sort of has a little bit of a different secret sauce, but you can kind of listen into the strategies that are successful for this guy in this market and then figure out if it applies to you. And so what's happening is like people are developing their businesses independently, but in synchronicity with one another. Right. So it's like, oh, this guy has a good idea. Let's create like a Facebook group. Now a bunch of other people are doing this Facebook group. And this guy is running pickup ads. Oh, wait, I do want to become independent from Facebook for sourcing,
Yeah. What selling methods have you found that make it? Because that's the big thing for us, like our business right now for couches. I don't do used anymore. We do new. But the big thing is like we are wholly dependent on Facebook Marketplace. We tried running Google ads and we just it didn't work for us. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, well, we're just stuck on Facebook Marketplace for now. And we're like exploring other ways. But what do you think?
Yeah. Well, once again, there's no one way to skin the cat. The thing I think flippers are not doing enough of is building an audience. So like long term, I think what's happening right now is 4 or 5 years ago, this was just a side hustle for everyone. And now 2024 is like, no, you can build a real business and it's not as risky of a proposition as it once was. It's like the model is there, but we're all like in the very early days of doing this. And so that means there's a land grab. The people that are positioned correctly right now can take advantage of this model, of this moment, and get a foothold in their market to build these businesses before anyone else, but they have to do it in the right way. They can't be just dependent on Marketplace for their sourcing and their distribution. You got to be able to find couches off of Marketplace, and you need to be able to sell couches off of Marketplace. But the thing that makes this low barrier to entry is Marketplace. We can build businesses on the back of Marketplace, but you have to eventually diversify. So if you are like building any other business, think about any other consumer business, right? Like B2C business. You basically have to pay for distribution. It's extremely hard to get in front of customers. Like you can't just like telemarket to people anymore, right? You can't just get a list of like 1 million consumers and call them and be like, hey, do you want to buy my gummy worms or something like that? No, it's like you got to run ads. You have to have a good website. You have to have a good product, right? And then in order to get in front of consumers, you have to like pay to do it. Like you have to go broker a relationship with a retail store or find a distributor for your product, or somehow get your product onto the shelf of in the grocery aisle, right? Or you gotta like try to run ads to sell your gummy worms, and the math probably doesn't add up, right? Yeah. So it's extremely hard to get distribution for B2C products, which is why there's high barrier to entry for companies like that. But for couch flippers or furniture, or whatever, you just get to list an individual item on Marketplace. Yeah. And you get a shortcut. But the question is, your question, right, is how do you make that jump? Well, single time you have an interaction with a customer on Facebook Marketplace, whether it's buying or selling, or whether or not the transaction is completed, you have an opportunity to build your audience. That's one more person that knows who you are, your name, and can engage with you in a different capacity. And so that if you treat every touch point as an opportunity to convert that person into having a direct relationship with you, you can eventually siphon off enough of the market on Marketplace into your own customer base. And so this is what flippers need to do more of, I believe. Yeah. What do you think the right channel for storing those customers you siphoned off? There's the Facebook group, which seems to be very effective. Any other channels? Could be anything. In practice, I'm not doing this. And so I'm talking more in theory, right? But in theory, it could be anything. It could be an email list. It could be a Facebook group. It could be an Instagram page. And I've seen any or all of those things be successful for different flippers. Yeah, that makes sense. That's cool. I love the idea of
this method of growth that you were talking about of like, okay, there's all these decentralized flippers in all these different cities. They all are doing their own thing. And then we're sharing information in this group, leaning best practices off of this person. Oh, that might work for my business, throwing it in and kind of seeing what works. It reminds me, like, especially growing up, like fundamental Christian in like South Louisiana Bible Belt, like I've been like learning about science a lot more. And like it's almost like a beautiful depiction of like evolution, where it's just like this, you can like we're watching this thing be born into the world, this new species of business, and like the things that are working are spreading and growing, and the things that aren't are like dying and being left behind. And it's pretty cool. And it's cool to be a part of it in our small. I did want to ask you, going back to the FOPO and then like having haters, do you feel like you have FOPO, and how do you handle irrational hate from people? Like, because and just like, it's ridiculous to me, the people who have this hate and this like closeness. How do you handle that? Do you just like feel sorry for them, or do you like, does it bother you, or are you just like whatever?
FOPO, no. I mean, like at Carnival or in Medellin in this founder house full of like very special people, a little bit, I'm like, am I up to like, but generally no, because then I like kind of zoom out and look at the general population. And I'm like, oh, I'm doing okay. Right.
Yeah.
I like my life. Like I really can't complain about my lifestyle. So, and I worked very hard to get here, so I give myself that much credit. Now, in terms of the haters, it doesn't, like, of course, right? Like people talk shit about you. It's like annoying, but it doesn't really get to me.
That's good.
It doesn't really get to me. I mean, first of all, like my big picture here is a lot bigger than these conversations, right? It doesn't, like, you think I am a bad person and like I did you wrong in some way. Okay, you're entitled to have that opinion. I think I do business pretty much as above board as you can, and I've learned that just to be important, right? Like to conduct yourself with integrity. And I think we have genuinely good intentions for like what we want to do with this market and how we want to help people. So I just, I worry about myself in that capacity. And on the other hand, like I do also really understand where these guys are coming from. I think the way I present is like, well, maybe I present as like holier than thou, or like some tech nerd coming into the couch flipping industry, and that just like rubbed people the wrong way. In reality, like my background is a lot more blue collar. Like my upbringing is a lot more working class than, I don't know. Like, so it's just not really who I am, but I can understand if I present that way, and that's rubbed people the wrong way. And I also think it comes from a place of fear, right? Because like really, what is their like criticism? It's a couple things, but one of the main ones is like, oh, you're advertising and more flippers are getting into the game, right? And if you used to make $15,000 a month and it's getting harder to hit that number every month, and you need a scapegoat, well, maybe I'm a good scapegoat for that, right? Instead of like, okay, have you changed your business at all? Right?
Yeah.
Are you doing the same thing that you were doing a year and a half ago and expecting the same result? Right. But the reality is this market is evolving very quickly. It's like we got in the game at the end of November 2022, end of 2022. It's been a little bit over a year. A lot has changed from what I can see, right? In just that year and a half time period. I think it's going to move even faster and faster. And this is what people don't realize, is that shit is changing very quickly. If you think deals are getting more competitive, like the thing that's happening right now, right, is that there are a bunch of sourcing companies like coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
Right. You got like the Swoopa guys, and you got the Marketplace Monitor guys. You and I have our thing. And what that means is like, it's become a race to the bottom, right? Like now, like let's say a year ago, you could conceivably get deals off Marketplace without using a tool like Buffer. But pretty soon it's going to be a prerequisite. Like it's just going to hit this like critical mass where it's just like having a sourcing software to get a deal on Facebook Marketplace. It's just, you just need it, right? Like there are gonna be so many people with so many softwares that like you cannot get a deal on Marketplace without utilizing a tool like ours. And that's probably happening right now.
I got off the phone with my brother right before hopping on the call here because I was like, hey, guys, it's me and my brother at FlipFast. And I was like, I'm about to talk to Charles, like CEO of Ivy Flip. I was like, man, I keep on every now and then just get reminded of this quote that I heard from Alex Hermosa. I don't know if he got it from somewhere, I'm sure, but there's no benefit in being the second highest priced like tool. Like there is like a race to the bottom, and then there's like this benefit of being the most expensive, which like I totally saw like perfectly. Like I remember seeing a question in the group a while back, like a year ago, and it was like, hey, is the question, I'm trying to remember exactly how it was worded, but it was like something to the effect of like, is Ivy Flip like really worth the extra money or something like that? And it was so interesting because it wasn't like the question, it was like an honest question, but it was asked from the premise of like, obviously Ivy Flip is better if they're charging this much. But the question wasn't like, how much, like, is it better? The question was like, is the betterness worth the extra? And so it was just like, it was such a clear depiction of just, wow, like, that's the power of being the most expensive. And like I think like I'm not asking that to, or not mentioning that to like try and be like FlipFast is just as good. I think server-based solutions are required. Like you have to, like the Chrome extension is dying. We're working on a server-based solution right now, but you have to have a server-based solution because it's just like, I don't know, it's needed. And you can like search faster, But it was just like such a cool depiction of like, wow, yeah, being expensive is not a detriment. It comes with this inherent, it's got to be better to be charging more, which is cool. And it's cool, like it's cool seeing that as this race to the bottom happens. How are you like? This was another question that I had. It's like this is a business. Like you are a CEO. You've got employees. It's like you are running this business, and then it's like there's these couch flippers, side hustle people who are just like kind of throwing into the ring. Like, I mean, you're already doing it. You're providing value in other ways. Like it's not just a sourcing tool. It is like there's these other aspects that you're adding on. So you're like creating more value there, which is cool. There's lots of really cool ways to add value in this like new business model.
Yeah. So there's so much to talk about, like where to start. First off, the game is changing. The game is changing very quickly. So, but if I'm right about a lot of what I've said, then the people in the game right now are going to make a lot of money. That's what happens when new markets are formed that solve big problems, right? That's what happens. Like if you started Airbnb before Airbnb was a thing, you would have made a lot of money. And even the companies that don't emerge at the top of the stack tend to make a lot of money too, right? So like when you get into VC, like in raising money from VC, they care a lot about the market that you're in, right? Because they know that an average entrepreneur in a really good market is probably more likely to pay off than a really good entrepreneur in a really shitty market. They call it the market alpha and the beta, right?
That makes sense.
And so if I'm right that we are solving a big problem and that there's about to be a really big market, then the people that are in early building businesses all have a pretty good chance or high likelihood of being successful, whether it's the tech providers or it's the actual people building the businesses, right? I think all the people that have been doing the same thing for like 4 or 5 years, if they don't get their act together, what's going to happen is some young guy is going to listen to my podcast, or they're going to figure out, they get into couch flipping, however they get into, and they're just going to pay attention and work really hard. And they're going to accelerate way past these schlubs that have just been like not evolving.
Yeah.
Like this, Dylan Pavia is such a good example of this.
I was literally thinking about him.
Started like 6 months ago, and like he's off to the races. He just did 50K in January.
That's incredible.
He's not going to stop, right? And it's because he's not resting on his laurels. So all these people that are like, oh, I can't get a deal on Facebook Marketplace, that's what it is, like you gotta compete. And so when I see and the same thing applies to me or you, right? It's like, if, like there are these two new guys, Marketplace Monitor and Swoopa, and there are actually other sourcing softwares, Facebook Marketplace notification kind of tools out there. It's like, we got to compete, right? And in a way, like, it's not great for my business that like we are the subject of so much ire, and people have like politically motivated reasons to get off our software, but that's a small fraction of people. Most people are just to like stay with us or leave us based on like some price value matrix of decision making, right? It's like, if there's enough value, a good enough price coming from a competitor, they're probably going to switch, right? And I don't know exactly how that pans out, but we have to compete.
Yeah.
And I think for us going into 2024, it's a good thing because we're just a lot hungrier going into 2024. And I think we were in 2023. Like, there's just a lot happening in 2023, a lot of transitions. And I don't know if we were as confident that we'd stick in this market as opposed to pivoting into something else. But in 2024, it's like, no, we want to be here, right? And like, we have a piece of the pie and we think we can be pretty good at it, and we're ready to compete, right? So it's like fuel to the fire in a way. Like what's happening with the competing sourcing solutions is that they're creating this race to the bottom, though. So, it was just you and us. Just the way that we're doing the scraping is totally different, and ours is server based, and there's probably an experience advantage there. But another big difference is that the server based solutions have tech costs associated with them. It's not just a Chrome extension locally on your computer. It's running on our servers. So we have like cloud hosting costs, we have like mail server costs, and most importantly, we have scraping costs, right? Because all of us are pulling this information through Facebook's API, and we need to anonymize how that's being done. And so we are partnering with basically proxy farms in order to do the scraping. And that has cost, unless we're going to build our own proxy farm, which is unlikely, right?
Yeah.
The proxy farm that you're using, there's a varying level of cost. We use pretty much the most expensive one. But anyhow, because there is a difference in how the scraping was being done, we could kind of charge whatever we wanted, right? Whatever we thought was fair and what people would pay for. But with the new guys, what they're doing is they're coming in and they're breaking apart. Like we kept our pricing really simple. It's just like, here are two plans, one for you just getting started up, and one for you if like, you want to pay a little bit more and get the best thing, right? But what they're doing is breaking those plans into pieces and then allowing you to pay for the pieces. Right? Does that make sense? So instead of
like Facebook one search, offer up one search, add it to your cart, kind of thing.
So they allow you to sort of customize and so what they're doing is they're pricing each component of what we're offering, and they're putting a dollar value on it, right? And so it's, instead of 24-hour monitoring, maybe it's 18 or 15 or 12. And so what that does in effect is drive prices for everyone down. Like that's inevitably going to have a negative pricing effect for us, because instead of purchasing a bundle outright, all the components are starting to get priced out. I think we're still going to maintain a premium price point. That's just like who I think we are in this market, or like who we want to be, right? And
I think it's like, you're in a very good spot for that, because it is the premium price, which brings the premium product, which brings the people like Dylan to you. Like that's Dylan is like the new age flipper who is very business minded and I can make $50,000 a month from here. I don't want to think about my sourcing. He's like, I don't care about $500 a month or, like whatever. It's like, if this is the machine that is keeping my business fed, I will gladly use it. And there's, even if there was a product that was cheaper and did the exact same thing, Dylan would never switch because it's a risk. It's like, okay, I can save $200. Like, me thinking about this right now is a waste of my time. Like,
yeah, at a certain level, it's just like, it's not worth the price discrimination, right? Like, it's just, I'm satisfied with the service I get. A lot of flippers are going to fall into that bucket. Now, there's a difference between where we're at today and where we're going to be in the future. And like you were asking earlier, like, well, today we still get most of our sales from Facebook Marketplace. That's where a lot of people are still at, right? Facebook Marketplace, for better or for worse, is an integral part of what most people are doing, but it doesn't have to be that way, right? Nick from The Good Couch, doesn't source anything from Facebook, actually, at this point. It's all through requests on their website, but it took them time to build that like reputation, right? And then on the sales side, they still list stuff on Facebook Marketplace. Dylan still benefits from the distribution of Facebook Marketplace, still part of his growth strategy because that's how he gets people into the group, but he's selling primarily through the group, right? And like same thing for, well, like what, so it's going to happen, right? The people that do really well with their couch flipping businesses actually won't need sourcing software, right? Like the sourcing is just going to be for more like the small fish of couch flipping.
That makes sense.
So that's the ironic thing about the sourcing software. If my prediction about where the market is heading is correct, then you should stop using our tools. You should stop using the sourcing software and you should start diversifying your sourcing off of Facebook Marketplace and figuring out different strategies for acquiring friendship because it's about to get very crowded and very competitive. More and more people are getting into the game and now everyone is tech enabled. And so, yes, it's absolutely going to be harder and harder to get deals. And, people blame me for that.
I was just laughing at that. It's funny that people are blaming you for that when in reality, it's like, no, you were doing a service by charging the amount you were charging. It was a premium price that kept a lot of people from doing it, that made it so easy for so long. And now people are mad at you for almost like creating this category. And now it's other but it's like, okay, yeah, well, Marketplace Monitor and Swoopa coming in at like $50 a month is now giving that product to everybody. And now your competition is going to go through the roof. For new couches or for inventory. So it makes me laugh because it's just like, oh yeah, like it is the scapegoat of frustration when in reality it's like, that's why when we first created our pricing, I would pay $500 for this, like easy, like the first day we created the software, the first day we used it, we made $700 on a flip within a couple of hours. And we bought it and sold it same day, $700. And it was just like, holy smokes. Well, we would have missed that deal otherwise. And so we were considering $500 and we were like, well, we don't want to do it so cheap that it becomes a drag on flippers because now they're just competing. We want it to be like this, oh, your business at this level that you can do it. And it's worth it for you. Mm-hmm. But that is.
Yeah. And look, it was going to happen eventually.
Yeah.
No matter what, right? It was just a question of, and if it wasn't us, or it wasn't, it was always going to happen. It's just work, Now, if you try to flip video games, for example, you have to use a sniping software. There's just no way to buy video games at the price that you want in the volume that you need to sustain a lifestyle without the usage of technology because everyone has the technology, right? And so, and I'm not super educated about video game flipping, but it's just it's par for the course and it's evolution what we're talking about, right? And so far, people figure out how to have an advantage in this economic game. Other people are going to find a way to also get that economic advantage, unless you can somehow, get such a massive lead over everyone else that you can effectively shut them out. And no one did that with couch flipping, right? There's not one entity that, and I think it's because it's very difficult to do that for the the supply chain reasons that we're talking about, right? It's hard to have that level of scale, and that's what's created this like level of barrier or insulation like within each local market for people to be able to prop up their own businesses. But it's very unique timing. People need to get in now, and they need to start building these businesses now and doing things the right way now. Otherwise, the opportunity is going to slip right past them.
Sorry, Charles. I had a meeting at 2 that I just totally blew past.
Okay. No worries.
And so I've got to run. But really enjoyed the talk. Well, let's talk in a bit. I got to scoot, but it was really great talking, Charles.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.